Hi, I'm 5 Pound Pete, and today I'm going to be talking about some of the tools that I used when I built my van. Before you click away, I want to make sure you catch this. These are the safety equipment that I used while I was building. We've got safety glasses, goggles, keep your eyes clean, respirators when I'm working with toxic glues, gloves, nitrile gloves for when I'm working with chemicals, and knee pads. These are the layout and measuring tools that I use to build the van. I have a small 10-inch tape measure. I usually carry that in my pockets when I'm shopping. 25-foot tape measure. Some layout tools like this really cool compass that or I don't know, compass probably, that allows you to draw circles of any radius. That's really useful. A smaller template, circle template. A digital caliber to measure, the size of screws and then the size of drills to make sure you get nice tight fits when you need it. And then measuring lengths, I have a 6-foot straight edge ruler, a 4-foot straight edge ruler, a 1-foot ruler, and some squares. I have a large square, a smaller 1-foot square, and an adjustable square, which comes in really handy for measuring distances and marking pieces of wood. It's really useful. Speaking of squares,
the floor of my van was actually not flat. So in order to make sure that the walls of the enclosures were vertical, I marked the center of the floor with tape early on by measuring across the floor width, which is symmetrical. And then at the top, it's easy to figure out the center of the van based on the ceiling geometry. And so what I would do is I would take a piece of wood, a vertical straight edge, and mount that between those 2 points, giving me a perfectly vertical reference. And then I can measure off that reference to make sure that the walls of the enclosures were perfectly vertical.
These are the tools I use for drilling holes in metal, wood, whatever, and the tools I use to drive fasteners. First of all, I have a drill index with a variety of drill sizes. I have a specialty drill, which is a step drill, a step bit, which is fantastic for drilling into sheet metal. Drills perfectly round holes, and it's just a super cool tool to have. I have another specialty tool, drill bit, which is for countersinking and pre-drilling holes for drywall screws, which I used a lot of where they didn't show. I have a variety of hole saws all the way up to this size for speakers and things, and all the way down. When I want really clean holes, I use Forstner bits. These have a smooth wall. They drill a perfectly round hole that's super clean. Most of the time I'll drill part way through and come in from the other side and drill the other end so that I get a clean hole on both sides of my plywood. I have a trick. I made a jig. Sometimes you'll drill a hole this size, a smaller hole, and you'll want to make it bigger, and trying to get the drill bit to not walk around is really tough. So I have a jig I made which allows you to place the hole that you're trying to drill over the old hole, clamp it down in a position, maybe even offset, and then drill a new hole, and it keeps the drill bit from walking around, and you get a nice clean drill hole, even if you're trying to make the hole bigger. There's a little fixture. I have another block of wood here that I use that's a square, and so if I need holes that are straight up and down, I could use this to guarantee that I have a square hole that's perpendicular. I have a drill press that I got in junior high school that I've been using forever, and I use that to set, drill, straight up and down holes. When I'm using larger hole saws, it's great to be able to clamp everything down and drill. And then I have another kind of jig. Let's say you want to have a whole bunch of holes that are the same spacing and a certain distance from the edge of a piece of wood. You build a little jig, and then you can just push that along and and drill the holes and spot all the holes without having to measure and mark every hole. Jigs are great. To use the drill bits, I have a drill, and this drill is set up for drilling, higher speed and locks. I have a second one for driving, and when I first started the project, I only had the one, and I was always switching bits in and out and changing it from drive to drill, and it was just a pain. Along the way, I found that you could buy just the handset. And so I bought the handset. I already had spare batteries and a charger. And so it was really inexpensive to pick up a second hand unit. Another thing that I advise is you get one of these little kits that has a whole bunch of different bits, slot bits, Phillips, square, Torx, all kinds of things. It comes with a magnetic chuck that I just permanently mount into my drill or into my driver, so I can change bits in and out really easily. A couple specialty bits just to make it quick to change things and keep track of them when I'm working. I have a special bit for connecting sockets, half-inch sockets, so I could drive sockets, drive bolts and things, and an extension so I can get into places that are hard to reach. And I worked by myself on my van, and sometimes trying to hold things is kind of a hassle. The tool that I use probably most frequently, other than the driver, is trigger clamps. I have 8 of them, and by far they get used more than anything else in my tool kit. So those are those set of tools. This is my assortment of power tools. One of them that I wasn't familiar with was this track saw. This is a really cool thing. You can clamp it down, this track, onto your piece of wood, drop the blade partway through, and then pull the saw cutting halfway through the material. And when you get to the other end, you drop the blade all the way through and you pull it through the other direction. And what that does is it does a clean climbing cut on both sides of that material. So both sides of your plywood come out super clean. It's a great tool, and one I didn't even know about when I first started my project. Other tools that I've got, a jigsaw from high school that I cut holes in the side of the van for fans and windows. A heat gun, not too specialized. This is a multi-tool. I only used it a few times, but the few times where you really need it, it's just invaluable for getting in places and cutting things. It's really a cool tool. I have a router that I most often, or I just leave a 1/8 inch round over bit in it, and I use this to clean up all the edges of my my wood that I built, shelves out of and things. Super great for rounding over really clean edges on your wood. This is a Craig jig for helping to drill pocket holes for pocket screws. Only used it a few times, but there's just sometimes when you're just trying to butt some pieces of wood together and you need to figure out how am I going to get a screw in there, having that capability is really important. And then a sander for just making the job of sanding materials a lot faster. So those are my power tools.
To work on your van, you're going to want to make a step so you can get in and out of the van easier, since you're going to be going in hundreds of times. In my case, I built a little shelf under it to store all my power tools.
This is my assortment of hand tools. Starting over here, this is the hammer I've had since grade school. I got a little mallet, assorted screwdrivers, a tool that I picked up long ago, which is an offset ratchet. Allows you to put a screwdriver bit in it and get into really tight places and tighten down screws. Pretty cool. These are heavy-duty scissors, kitchen scissors. They're used for all kinds of things, but really what's cool about these is you can cut really easily, precisely, thin slate insulation with these guys. I have a small set of scissors for finer work, a wrench, grips, a scribe for precisely locating holes, and a punch so you can center the hole and keep your drill bit from walking around. There's a knife, some basic electrical tools. I have a multimeter, wire strippers, and terminal crimpers. An alcohol dispenser for cleaning things and getting marker ink off. A flashlight. This is a tool that was pretty useful and could do it without, is a crimper for PEX tubing clamps, and a miter saw and sanding block. So a lot of my work is done with just by hand sawing, smaller pieces of wood. I got the longer sanding block, these sponges. These are terrific. The short ones don't last as long and they're harder to use. So I recommend getting a longer one. And that's pretty much the extent of my hand tools. I might have picked up something along the way that I didn't remember to put out on the table here. But this is the rest of my tools. So I hope you enjoyed this video, that you learned something, and thank you for watching.